All right, Lou and Brad, congratulations on Where Have You Gone, Lou DiMaggio.
Right here.
Yes. So let me start with you, Lou. Where have you gone?
Well, I've always been in the same place, but it was more of a spiritual where have I gone.
Yes.
I was sort of not really where I should have been in terms of what I do and who I am. And this film, I think, tells the story of recognizing that and rectifying that. I guess. Wow, I've never thought of it that way. But that's kind of what it is. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to. You know, Brad was saying it before. It's like you reach a certain point in your life, we all do, especially when you get into your 50s, where you're like, well, what am I doing? Where am I going? Who am I? And if you're not really on track with that, you kind of are forced to reckon with that one way or the other. Either you're going to do what you set out to do, or you're going to put it away forever. But you have to answer the call.
I hear you. Let me get back to that later. But I want to ask Brad, how did you come on board? Did he reach out to you? Or?
Well, Lou and I had been friends for a number of years. We worked together years ago. I was producing a pilot for some defunct game show, and Lou was a writer for that, and we got together and made this project and remained friends, and would get together from time to time. And a few years ago, we were having lunch, like friends do, and he tells me this incredible story about the 80s and him being a stand-up comedian and at a place called Catch a Rising Star in New York, and all these famous people today who came from there that he's friends with. And I said, man, why aren't you doing stand-up comedy? Have you ever thought of doing it again? And he said, well, I have been thinking a lot about it. And I'm a guy I make TV shows for a living. I've always wanted to make a documentary. I just never really felt like I found my subject, my story to tell. I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. He tells me this story, and I just looked at him and I said, well, we're gonna make this documentary. You're gonna return to stand-up. You're gonna go talk to all these people. We're gonna do this. It was just a light bulb moment, and we literally left that lunch with a plan.
It's kind of amazing, really, because he wanted to make a movie, a doc, and he was waiting for the sign of what that would be. And this became that. And for me, it was like, oh, you really are going to get to do stand-up, but in a good way, because now you're going to be accountable. You're really going to have to do it. It's not like you're just going to sneak out of your house one night and go on stage and whatever. This is like really, really getting a shot. And so it was a perfect union in that respect.
Yeah. And how did you guys get your hands on some of the archival footage and all that kind of time travel kind of stuff?
You had a lot of it.
I had a lot of stuff.
Your old stuff.
I had a lot of stuff, and I also, and this is not necessarily something I'm good at, but I had a lot of, literally like the half-inch VHS tapes, the old 3/4-inch tapes, and I have a friend who worked at a commercial agency and had one of those 3/4 machines, which are practically obsolete now. I mean, they are obsolete. There's only a few around. And I said to myself, I got to get these transferred. How am I going to do this? And we transferred them to digital. So I had that, and then I ran across this tape of me on stage at Catch a Rising Star in like 1986. Literally, the time that we're talking about. It's that fantasy moment of, oh my God, that's who I am. That's who I was then. This is what I'm referring to, and we had it. That to me was the linchpin. We worked there, and I had other stuff too, but that was the main thing. Is I'm wearing the clothes that I used to wear all the time. This red jacket that was like my obsession at the time, and it just really, you see certain things just bring it all back, and that was it. So we had that, and I think that to me was we built everything off of that.
Yeah. And for those of us comedy fans who have heard of the legendary Fries, well, this documentary kind of takes us inside,
that was a really cool get for us, and
they were great too.
They were really great. So the backstory on that is Rick Newman, who was the original owner of Catch a Rising Star, remains really good friends with Richard Belzer, and we had told Rick that we really wanted to interview him for the doc because he was such an icon of connected to the club, an icon of comedy, and for Lou was a really inspired by him over the years, and so we wanted him desperately, and he lives in France. So we had the bells window. So we got a call from Rick saying, "Hey, Belzer's in town. He's in New York. You guys got to get out here because we live in LA." And we hurry up and we book tickets and we get out there. We're like, "Holy crap! We don't know where we're going to do this interview." So I started
training. He was doing something at the Friars.
Well, he has lunch there every day.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess when he's in town.
Yeah, and so I ended up getting his number. We started texting, and I said, "Hey, where can we interview you?" He's like, "How about the Friars?" So we called them, and they were great.
Because it was him,
they were great.
They treated us great. They gave us a room. Yeah, it was wonderful.
And it was really neat to have that as a location, and the film was really special. I think.
Was there a comedian, because it features Larry David, Colin Quinn, all these great guys. Was there a comedian or a club that you want to get access to for this documentary that you couldn't, or just somehow didn't manage, or didn't get the time to?
There was a few. I think the people who were closest to Lou back in the day all said yes. There's not anybody who he was really tight with who said no. We tried some other big names who were associated with that place that Lou really wasn't friendly with back in the day, and got some. I wouldn't say no's, but we got some ignores. We got a lot of ignores.
In terms of clubs, though, I didn't. All I cared about really. One of the things that I thought was that there had been documentaries made about the Improv and all of these clubs, but no one had ever talked about Catch, and Catch was the pinnacle. That was the place to be. It was like I started out at the Improv in New York, and all these people, like all of them, started out somewhere, but they all ended up at Catch because Catch was like, in the level of comedy clubs, that was like the AAA level. That's the last place you're going to go before you go on to whatever's going to happen to you. So I just wanted to talk about that club anyway. And once we got Rick Newman, the owner, to come on board, that was like, okay, great. We got that covered. We found all this great footage of Catch, and we told a nice history of it and gave it its props that it deserved, because it was such an electric environment to be involved with that place. And so I just, that was very satisfying for me to pay homage to Catch, because it was, if you were there, you could feel it. You could feel it. There was nothing like it.
And that's a good point, because up to this point, I only heard about Mitzi Shore's The Comedy Store in LA. I haven't heard about Catch or Rising Star.
Well, Catch was huge. I mean, I'm sorry, Comedy Store is basically the West Coast version of that. It's just as relevant and just as electric, but we were in New York.
Exactly. So Lou, let me ask you, what do you think? How has comedy evolved since the 80s? For the better, for the worse? Do you find it, easier to relate to your audience now from the stage, or is it a tougher crowd?
It's different. I mean, look at it this way. When I was doing it then, the audience was basically my age peers.
Of course.
They were mostly young people who were looking at people that were roughly their age. So it was easy to reference stuff to them. They were, very easy, because you know that you're basically talking to your age peers and stuff like that. So now the audience is mostly younger, and I have to make that adjustment, which is challenging, but also really satisfying when you hit it, because you want to be relevant to everyone anyway. So to make people in their 20s laugh, you should be able to do that anyway. But sometimes I have to relate to. You don't want to be that guy that's like, when I was a kid, this is blah, 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 blah. You want to talk about current events. You want to talk about things that everyone has to relate to. There are ways of tying it together without being like, we had to walk to school, whatever. So it's it can force you to sometimes work a little hard. Like I said, it was easier when you're working to your own age peer group, right? Because you don't have to edit yourself in terms of references. If I want to talk about the Beatles or something like that, they're going to know, they're into the same stuff or whatever. But now it's like, there's certain things that if I talk about, they're not going to be interested in. And I'm not going to shoehorn that in there. just because I think they should know about, except for the Beatles. That's the only thing. Don't start me on that, because I have a 20-minute monologue. You should think that the Beatles are great. They are.
So, of all the advices in the, that Larry, Ray, Jeff gave you in the documentary, I screened it the right way. Fantastic film. So, of all the advice that they gave you, which one do you prioritize, or do you take an amalgamation of all of them? Or?
Yeah, I would say yes, but there were certain things that stood out. In some ways, they're very simple things, but they mean a lot. Like, one of the most profound things is when Larry says, make sure you do what you think is funny. Now, on the surface, like to somebody who doesn't do comedy, they might think, well, what, duh. But what he's really saying is that don't pander. And do because when you do what you think is good, you're taking that material and you're making it more about, you're curating it. You're saying, let the audience come to me, and I'll sink or swim with whatever it is, but this is what it is.
And then you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah,
you're doing it for yourself.
It's more artistic that way.
And that's what the movie really is about. That it's about doing. Answering the call of what's important to you. So many people can relate to this film because, you reach a certain age and so many people kind of look in the mirror and they say, boy, I've kind of gotten off track. I'm not doing what I, was important to me or what I always thought I wanted to do. And so there really is a message in this movie. It's not just about stand-up comedy. It's really also about doing what's important to you in the short life that we have.
That actually goes along with my next question, because when you think of the term comeback kid, you probably think of Mickey Rourke, for example. How do you define comeback kid for both of you with relates to this documentary?
Well, I think for me, it's a story that sort of ties into what we were thinking about. Like we reached a point when we were making it where we're like, how is this going to end? And because in certain circles, people would think, well, we need to have some kind of big ending here, like that this leads to something, that Lou's going to get something, he's going to have some relevant, obvious explosion of fame, and he's going to be on
the Apollo.
But it really wasn't about that. Right. Ultimately, what I remember thinking of this analogy, in Rocky, he doesn't win the fight, he just goes the distance, because that's really what he wants to do. I'll know. If I go, I just want to go the distance. All I want. Well, I just wanted to get back on stage. So I did. And
you're still there.
And I'm still there. I mean, the end of the film is really the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
That's the sequel. The end of the film is the beginning of the story. Then I got back up on stage, and I'm still back up on stage, and I'm working on material, and I'm, working on hopefully a comedy special and all of those things because of this and because I'm doing what I want to do.
And I think it's somebody who, was close with him before we did this and even closer to him now after doing this, he's just a much happier, more fulfilled person. And you see it, the instant I'm with him now, it's just a different person than it was before. And it's nice. It's really good to see that change in somebody you care about and your friend. And he just...
Thanks, Brad. Yeah. I mean, there were so many things that I learned, too, from these guys and girls and women.
Yeah.
Because some of it is profound, and then some of it, like Colin had that one really funny technical thing. Where are the jokes? Because you think you're going to go up there, especially when you're kind of experienced, and we can be funny, we know how to do it, but you get a little cocky. And you go up there sometimes, you don't necessarily have anything in your pocket. It's like, oh, I got this funny idea. But if he says it in the movie, and all of a sudden you're out there, and they're going to love this, and then you don't really follow up with, you don't pay it off.
Yeah.
And so his advice was, make sure you have that. So that's interesting, I think, to people on a technical level, because people like to know, well, how do people do their jobs, But so there's that in it, and there's bigger picture, profound things about it, like what Larry said. And then there's this thing that Jeff said, which was hilarious, which was, you know, nobody cares who you are, and nobody, you know, what was the line? It was, I just want to let you know that no one knows who you are, and nobody cares that you're back. And we're laughing. But there's a lot of truth to that. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you still want to. If you want to do it, that's just part of it. You know, you're entering a world. It's literally like you walked out of something and then you come back. You can't expect everyone to just go, "Hey, where were you? You know, where have you gone?"
My last question. My last question is kind of, you know, within that parameter. A lot of comedians, when they go into this world, stand-up comics, their objectives like, okay, I'm gonna have to, you know, end up having my own sitcom or be a Tonight Show leader, Tonight Show host. I'm sorry.
Right.
And the other one was to join Saturday Night Live.
Right.
And Susie, I think, in the documentary said, this business, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
You just, you know, sometimes you go to LA, you hope to make it big, but you might not.
Yeah.
So, what, I guess, both of you, what are some of your advices to young comics out there, maybe coming into this world, you know, already dreaming or very ambitiously about that, you know, next objective?
I mean, I always say to people who tell me they want to be a performer, whether it's an actor or comedian or whatever, there are lots of opportunities to go be an actor. You know, you may not be a famous one in a blockbuster movie, but you can go act and go do theater. You can go do a play. You can act. Oh, you can act in your house. You can put on your own stuff. Same thing with comedy. There's lots of
lots of places to do it.
All kinds of places to do it. Go do it. You know, if you're good and you get better, the fame and everything else, like all that comes if it's meant to be. You know, but if you want to be a performer, go perform. No one's stopping you.
And you know, more inside, I think it's everything that you mentioned about all of those goals. Those are all the things that I grew up with in comedy. You know, the SNL, Tonight Show, whatever it is, but sitcom. Yeah. And but the point is that if that doesn't happen, that doesn't mean that you're not a comedian. So it's really about, like, again, and I get back to that. Sorry. I get back to that. I get back to the essence of what it's about, because that other stuff will distract you. Yeah. You have to. It doesn't mean that you're not a good comedian or you're not a comedian. You know if you've got what it takes. But if you really want to do it, like Jeff says in the movie, you know, it's got to be a burning thing. But when you're like where I'm at now, I'm just doing it because I want to do it. Then that's all that matters. So all that other stuff, I couldn't have this perspective when I was in my 20s because I wanted those things so badly. But now I get it. Like, I'm none of it is contingent on anything. It's just doing it.
Yeah.
That's more zen, you know. It's like we're just doing it.
I love that. Big fan of Kurt.
But that said, I wouldn't mind having a show.
Yes.
don't think that I don't want to work, folks.
There you go. Well, Lou and Brad, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations on Where Have You Gone, Lou DiMaggio.
Right here.